Hi, my name is Tracy Palmatier, founder of Root Source Health and Wellness, where we focus on body, mind, spirit health and assessing the whole person. Today I have a special guest. Today I have Jason Palmatier, who also happens to be my husband. He has written a portion of this new book, Hope Out of Darkness, a guide to first responders' mental wellness. And it's written by Dena. So welcome, Jason. I'm so glad to have you here with us.
Thank you for having me. It's really happy to be here. And just to clarify, I did write a very short section in the book, but my friend Dena, who is the head of the North Carolina Peer Support, and has done just tremendous work throughout the state and the nation, as she's always been fascinated by my story and asked if I could put it into words for her so she could use it in a book, and I was so excited to help her out, and it is a wonderful book. It's going to save a lot of lives. It's going to do a lot of good, and I'm very happy to promote it and honored to be a part of it.
Yeah, so just looking through the book, the three main sections of the book is mental health and suicide, building resilience, becoming anti-fragile, and supporting those who are struggling. And that's kind of where you come into play with peer support, which, do you even know how it was founded?
To be honest with you, the foundations of peer support just come from the brotherhood and the sisterhood of first responders. It just comes with building relationships and being willing and vulnerable to help people and to give of yourself to help people in crisis, recognizing when people are struggling, and just being brave enough to stand up and say something and let them know that you are concerned and that there is a safe place for them and a safe person for them to speak to, talk to, and to help seek the treatment that they may need, or just to have a kind ear to listen to some of the struggles that are going on, because very often that's all it is. It's just they don't know who to talk to or how to talk to them, and as peer support members, we try to facilitate that in our houses. When I say houses, I say firehouses, in our stations, in our departments, and in first responder and military communities as a whole.
Talk a little bit about maybe your story and your background, how you became interested and involved in peer support.
Okay. I've been a career firefighter for 15 years. I started in Greenville when I was 29, but for the better part of my 20s, I had a hard time kind of getting my footing. I floundered a bit with career, and at that time I was drinking pretty heavily, and I got in trouble with the law a couple times, and I ended up going into alcohol rehab, which it was very successful at. It really taught me a lot, gave me a lot of tools for life. But when I got out, I was looking to do something better with my life, and I was able to get involved in firefighting. Was hired right on as a full-time career firefighter, and over the course of my career, I maintained my sobriety. I was pretty open about it, but it wasn't until I came to Cary that I learned about the peer support team and kind of what it was. And it was essentially just a network of people who were willing to answer the phones or listen to people who are going through some struggles. Most of the time it's strangers that would call you. So I took a class basically on active listening and how the peer support organization works, that was taught by Dena, the author of the book. And that's where we met and we became good friends. And as soon as I was on the team, within a couple days, I was answering my first phone calls and helping people through similar struggles that I had. And I found it was very easy for me to get into it because I've been open about my story for a long time, and I was very secure in my sobriety, and I had clear direction starting off, and I had a pretty clear path that I could help people who were similar in my situation. So for me, I primarily help young men, or men or young men who are struggling with alcohol and addiction, and telling them and showing them that there is a path forward. There is another, you can get beyond this, And if you get over this, it can grant you a life that you never knew was possible, which is the life I'm living right now.
Yeah, so that's pretty empowering for people. And so this is only for first responders? Is it fire and police, or who does that entail?
Well, it was started as the Firefighter Peer Support Network, but there are other peer support groups that are specific to police, fire, military. The beauty of it is they all kind of mix in with each other. We all know each other. And I've helped police officers, I've helped firefighters, I've helped military people. It's basically who fits best with that person. It doesn't matter what career you're involved in, but they try to find you the best fit for your situation and who has the most expertise and lived experience, who can speak the language with you, who has walked the path. And I think that's something that peer support has been phenomenal in doing, is that we have thousands of people across the state with this huge myriad of stories, and people are willing to share it, and there's a lot of open arms out there saying, I can help, I can be there for this person. So almost never does any call go unanswered, and I'd say within 20 minutes they usually have somebody throughout the state, or from the state of North Carolina, that is dialed into them, and they're already having a conversation. It's really beautiful to watch.
Can you talk a little bit about your approach when you first talk with someone? How do you approach their issue, what their struggle, what they're going through? How do you even begin to approach that?
Sure. The first thing I tell them is, first of all, what we talk about stays with us. I don't talk about this with anybody, not your family, not employers, anything, unless you give specific permission to give certain information. And almost never does that happen unless I'm speaking with a spouse where somebody may have gone to rehab and helping them through their struggles as well. But I let them know. They can tell me whatever, but I do tell them a bit about my story, about where I've been through, some of the things that I've gone through. And I take maybe a minute to let them know, this is what happened to me, this is kind of where I was, and sort of share my shared experience with them. When a stranger tells them the things that they've been through, that they've done, it kind of takes the pressure off them, because a lot of times some of these men that I speak to are pretty embarrassed about it, and I let them know, it's like, you are not the first who have done these things, and you're definitely not the last. So you're not alone in this. And then I basically make an agreement with them later on afterwards, about if you keep calling me, I will keep answering the phone. I will be here as long as you need me, and I'll check in on you. But if you decide that this isn't for you, or you need somebody else, then I will help you find somebody else. But whatever it takes to keep you moving forward, I am here to help you. So.
And how has your help been received?
In baseball terms, right now I'm batting 1,000. I am very fortunate that when I started in peer support, I had already had a lot of great mentors through Alcoholics Anonymous, through Narcotics Anonymous as well. Some of my mentors came from that, who I've had these great in-depth conversations with. And they taught me how to listen. They taught me how to speak to other people. So it was an easy transition for me to go into this. So I've been pretty adept at getting people to open up. I've had some pretty hard cases, but I love what one of them said to me, was he said that I was the most persistent son of a bitch he'd ever met in his life. And I'm not willing to give up on them, because they are valuable people. They are good people who might have done some bad things. It doesn't mean that their life is over, and it doesn't mean that they don't deserve help. And a lot of times, in their cases, I'm the only one who speaks to them. So without somebody, who knows what would happen? And I can't let that on my conscience. But I've had great success with some of the people. Actually, I wouldn't say me. They have had great success in in recognizing the truth that I was telling them about, if you can get through this, if you can do some of these things, and you can be humble, be mindful about this stuff, and really kind of, in some ways, be selfish about your own recovery and moving forward, there is a beautiful story to be had on the other side of it. So, and I'm pretty good at selling that story, because I have a wonderful life. I have a beautiful wife. I have a wonderful son. We have a beautiful farm, and I have a career that I love. So, and I'm very passionate about all those things, and that comes through, I think, in the way that I speak to them. And I'm very grateful, because somebody did for me the same thing that I'm doing for them.
Mm-hmm. And that ties into what I was just going to ask you, because I know in talking to you that, you know, your most successful people have gone on to be counselors, so themselves.
Yes.
So they've been so successful that now they're helping others,
Yes.
which is kind of the ultimate thing that you would hope for these folks.
Yeah, I'd say it's been about, over the past several years, I've been involved with about 3 dozen individuals, and I'd say at least a third of them now are on peer support teams, whether it's firefighter or with their police. NC LEAP's another one, the North Carolina Law Enforcement Assistance Program. They've gone on to take the classes, and now they are actively helping other people. And that's part of the agreement too, is there's an agreement to pay this back. And I always tell them, after a year, the first year's for you. So concentrate on yourself, make sure that you're doing the right things, be selfish about your sobriety and your recovery, whatever you need to do. The second year's for your family. Repair those wounds in the family, and be willing to do whatever it takes to keep your family together. Continue with your sobriety, and after the first 2 years, it's time to join the peer support team. Now you pay it back to the whole of the organization, and recognizing, it's just a recognition that you didn't do it alone, because I didn't do it alone. I don't know anybody who has.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult. You have to put a lot in as a person, as yourself. You've got to put all of yourself into there. But still, if you're doing this alone, it is damn near impossible to be successful.
And you had mentioned earlier that you had taken a few courses, but if someone wanted to become a peer support counselor, I know a lot of it is intuitive or from experience, but do you go through any kind of coursework, or?
There are different things that you can do, like continuing education after you become a peer, but the initial class is about a 3-day long class where you're immersed with a bunch of other people who are learning. You're doing a lot of active listening. You're learning a lot about statistics, and you're learning a lot about the things that cause people, or that have shown to kind of cause people to go down certain paths, and you recognize those paths. But most of it is just learning how to keep your mouth shut and listen, and not try to interject your opinions on things, and just recognizing what people are feeling, allowing them to vent to you, making sure that they feel comfortable with you, and just guiding them towards the help that they might need. I am not a counselor. I am not certified as a counselor. Not a lot of people in peer support are. But one thing that we do as an organization is oftentimes we'll listen, and if it seems like they really need clinical help, or they need immersion in like a rehab facility for multiple months, we encourage them, we find resources for them, and we try to take away any roadblocks that they might need to get help, financially, transportation, word about their house. We have a group of people, or we'll find a network of people that can maybe take care of lawn mowing. If it's a man who's leaving his wife, and she needs help around the house, we have people from the peer support in their area that will go and help out with certain things and make sure that the home front is taken care of so they can focus on healing themselves. And that's a big hindrance for a lot of people, or one of their excuses as to why they won't go is they can't afford to leave their house for that long. We try to take that away from them. It's difficult. It's hard getting somebody to leave their house for 30 days. But like I said, you have to sell the possibility of what life can be after this, and that's kind of what we do. So.
Yeah, it sounds like an amazing organization, and I was just thinking how amazing it would be if every organization in the country had something like this for mental health and to support their workers. So this specific peer support is for North Carolina firefighters. Do you know if there's anything else out there like this that
all
supports?
Over the place.
There is. Okay.
There's a lot. There's a lot of different organizations across the nation, whether they're through municipalities, whether they're through state organizations, firefighter unions or associations have their own as well. In fact, the International Association of Firefighters, which is the recognized firefighter union in the United States, that has several different treatment facilities for its members. And to be honest, I don't even know if non-union firefighters can go there, but I think they probably can. They're called the Centers for Excellence, and I can look into that. If you ever had questions, I could find those answers. But one thing I do recommend, though, sometimes is if people are having a hard time going to some of these places, like one's in Maryland, I think there's some down in Florida, there's some that are out of state, but there are also some in-state treatment facilities that are not first responder based, one of which I recommend because I went there, which was Fellowship Hall in Greensboro. It was just a tremendous place, and most of the people that I help through North Carolina Peer Support, that's where I recommend they go, because yes, it's good to tailor to first responders because we do have unique challenges, we have unique experiences that a lot of the population don't recognize, but you're also only at work a third of the time. You have to live among the rest of the population the rest of the time. Maybe sometimes it's good to get out of that first responder mindset and just go and just be a human. You don't need to be on alert all the time, and just go find somewhere you can relax and heal, and just learn how to live life on life's terms.
So for somebody that might be out there struggling right now, what would you say, what are the steps they can take to get in touch with the right people?
Well, everything is, all these organizations are online. If you look up North Carolina Firefighter Peer Support, you should be able to find it online fairly easy. But there are different peer support networks, not just for first responders, but also just for the population. It's essentially a support group, but what you're really looking for is just somebody who can kind of listen and who can identify with some of your problems. And finding treatment is not too difficult nowadays. You can usually just do a quick Google search of treatment centers in my area. But if it's something that you're trying to do to get a hold of peer support, or if you're seeking treatment, I would say speak to somebody who's been there before or has had some of this experience, and ask someone to kind of help you through it a little bit. It's good to have a guide or a mentor. If you're struggling with alcohol, visit an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. I used to go extremely regularly, but with peer support, I sort of have my own ways of staying sober and staying connected as well. But really, it's just reaching out for help. That's the hardest thing that I would say men like me have had a hard time doing in life, is we think we can do it all on our own. And we didn't like asking for help. But it was the moment I asked for help was a moment my life started improving by leaps and bounds. So I always say, like, you can be as tough as you want, but everybody needs help every once in a while.
So for that maintenance phase of, once they've gone through treatment, so you think just the continued talk and an open dialogue with someone is helpful
Yeah.
to kind of maintain that sobriety.
Yeah. So I always say, when you're starting off with peer support, having an open dialogue is extremely important. Make sure that you're making a connection, making sure that you're available to them when they need you, and that could be, 2 in the morning. If they're having a rough time, you got to be able to answer the phone. Like, I don't ever turn my ringer off at night, just in case the peer support person calls. But then also there is the mentorship aspect that is important too. When you come out of treatment, oftentimes you are sort of assigned a sponsor, which is essentially a mentor, kind of a guide to help you through the first stages. But finding someone that you sort of respect as a mentor is very, very important. And oftentimes all you have to do is you have to look around and see some people, and it doesn't have to be anybody who is in the program, but just look at somebody who is successful, who has kind of what you want, and just say, hey, how did you get this? How did you do this? Can you help me? Because I sort of want my life to be in this way. And if they are successful, oftentimes they're decent. They're decent people, and people are willing to help if they're asked. A lot of times people they have energy and like a helping hand that they want to give. They just don't know where to go. So if you need help, be willing to ask for it, and just seek someone who you admire, who you respect, because oftentimes if you if you build a relationship with that person, the accountability comes from not wanting to disappoint them. And that's enough for me. So.
Is there any last thoughts or things that you want to include about either peer support or words of wisdom for people kind of struggling right now? I'm
sort of narrowly focused in my ability to help people and this is no offense, I am happy to help anybody who calls me, but for me to establish sort of a deep friendship with someone and to help them along, I only deal with men. For one, it requires a lot of emotion, and it requires a lot of me that I don't think would be wise to put towards another woman just because of relationship, issues that might happen there. But what I would say to young men who are struggling, or any man who is struggling right now, is I always say find a tribe, find find a group of people who are doing something adventurous, who are building something, who are doing something good outward in the community, and who are active. And make sure these people are intelligent. That very, very often men's groups, and it's fine for them if it works for them. Men's groups that sit around and talk, they're not for me. I'm I need to be doing something. And for young men seeking adventure, oftentimes that provides clarity and purpose and direction in your life. But find some people that are doing something good, not online, out in the world, face to face. Go out in nature, go out in the community, do something real with people in real life, and see where that takes you. It'll change how you feel about yourself, and
sometimes just getting yourself out of your routine can just make that little bit of shift, can get you out of that mindset too.
Well said. Very well said. Tiny motions change the course over time. If you have two lines going straight and one of them deviates just a little bit, over time it is a wide gap from where that other line was going. And if you want to get away from those pathways, tiny changes or tiny little things will help. You're very well said.
Well, thank you so much for coming and talking today. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And again, the book is Hope Out of Darkness, A Guide to First Responder Mental Wellness by Dena. Go check it out. It's on Amazon, and it's a great book, great resource for those people who need it and are interested in this topic, because we need more information about mental wellness definitely out there. So thanks so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this, and talk to you next time. Be well.